The ground shook beneath the busy streets of Seoul. It was a Tuesday morning, and millions of people were going to work, drinking coffee and checking their phones. Nobody expected anything unusual. Nobody expected the earth to crack open in the middle of square. A metal object rose from the ground. It was tall and silver, shaped like a pyramid. The surface was smooth and covered in strange symbols that nobody could read. Police tried to block the area. News cameras appeared within minutes. The whole world watched as the ancient thing stood there, silent and mysterious. Then it began to glow. Commander was eating his breakfast in the Earth Unified Defense Center when the alarm started screaming. He dropped his chopsticks and ran to the main control room. Dozens of screens showed the same image from Seoul. The silver pyramid was now projecting light into the sky. "What is that thing?" asked. "Unknown, sir," a young officer replied. "It just came out of the ground. Our sensors show it has been buried there for thousands of years." Felt his stomach turn cold. He had trained for many things in his military career. Alien contact was always considered a possibility, but nobody really believed it would happen. Not like this. Not from something buried under one of the busiest cities on Earth. The light from the pyramid changed. It formed a shape, a face. The face was long and thin, with silver skin and large black eyes. It looked almost human, but not quite. The differences were small but deeply unsettling. The face began to speak. The voice was loud enough to be heard across the entire city. It spoke in a language that sounded like metal grinding against metal, but somehow everyone understood it perfectly. The words appeared directly in their minds. "People of Earth," the voice said, "we are the Empire. 6,000 of your years ago we visited your world, we found you weak and primitive, we left this beacon as a promise that we would return. That day has come. Your grace period has ended. In 30 of your days our fleet will arrive. You will surrender. You will serve. This is not a request. This is your future." The projection flickered and died. The pyramid went dark. For a moment the whole world was silent. Then the chaos began. News stations went crazy. Governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders called it the end times. Stock markets crashed within hours. People ran to stores and bought everything they could carry. Fear spread faster than any virus ever could. But not everyone was afraid. Admiral sat in her office at the Defense Center. She was 62 years old with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had led humanity's military forces for 15 years. She had dealt with wars, disasters, and crises that would break most people, but nothing had prepared her for this. She watched the recording of the alien message for the third time. Her assistant, a nervous young man named Jin, stood nearby. "Admiral," Jin said carefully, "the Council is requesting your presence. They want to discuss our response." Held up her hand, she was thinking. 6,000 years. The aliens had visited Earth 6,000 years ago. Back then, humans lived in small villages. They used bronze tools. They rode horses. They had no electricity, no computers, no space travel. To those ancient aliens, humans must have looked like ants. But that was 6,000 years ago. Started to smile. Then she started to laugh. It was a real laugh, deep and genuine. Jin looked at her like she had lost her mind. "Admiral, are you all right?" Wiped her eyes. "Jin, do you understand what this means? These aliens looked at us when we were still learning to make metal swords. They decided we were no threat, and then they got in their ships and flew here." Jin nodded slowly. "Yes, Admiral, that is concerning." "No, Jin, it is hilarious." Stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the orbital elevator stretching up into the clouds. Beyond that, invisible but present, were the thousands of ships that protected Earth, the colonies on Mars and the Moon, the mining operations in the asteroid belt, the research stations around Jupiter. Humanity had not been sleeping for 6,000 years. Humanity had been busy. "Get me the Council," said And tell them to bring their sense of humor. They are going to need it. The council meeting was held 2 hours later. Leaders from every nation attended through holographic projection. Their faces were serious and scared. They had all seen the alien message. They had all seen their people panicking. "We must prepare for surrender," one leader said. "We cannot fight an empire that spans the stars." "We should try to negotiate," another suggested. "Perhaps they will show mercy." Listen to them argue for 10 minutes. Then she raised her hand and the room went quiet. "Let me tell you something," she said calmly. 6,000 years ago, these looked at our ancestors and saw primitives. They saw people who could barely grow their own food. They saw no threat, so they left a warning and flew away. She paused to let her words sink in. They have been traveling here ever since. Their ships do not have faster-than-light travel. That is why it took them 6,000 years to arrive. Do you understand what this means? The leaders looked confused. "It means their technology has not changed much," continued. "They left when we had bronze swords. They designed their weapons to fight bronze swords. They have no idea that we invented nuclear power, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and warp drives. They think they are coming to conquer a primitive world." She smiled. "They are in for a very big surprise." Doctor was the head of Earth's Galactic Anthropology Division. Her job was to study any alien life that humanity might encounter. For most of her career, it had been a theoretical job. She studied possibilities and wrote papers that nobody read. Now suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to her. She sat in her lab, analyzing every second of the alien transmission. The, as they called themselves, showed clear signs of a rigid culture. Their message was not a negotiation. It was an announcement. They expected obedience because they had always received obedience. "Interesting," muttered to herself. "Very interesting." Her assistant knocked on the door. "Doctor, the Admiral wants to see you." Gathered her notes and headed to the command center. She found Admiral surrounded by military officers, but the mood was not what she expected. People were smiling. Some were actually laughing. "Doctor," said warmly, "perfect timing. I need you to help me write a response to our new friends." "A response, Admiral? What kind of response?" Smile grew wider. "The kind that will confuse them completely. I want to send them something they have never seen before in their entire empire." "And what is that?" "Jokes," said. "I want to send them jokes, memes, funny pictures. I want their first real contact with modern humanity to be us laughing at them." Blinked, then she understood. The expected fear. They expected begging. They expected desperate attempts at negotiation. They had built their entire invasion plan around humanity being terrified. Laughter was the one thing they would never expect. "Admiral," said slowly, "that is either the plan I have ever heard or the craziest." "Probably both," agreed. "Now let us get to work. We have 30 days to prepare the best welcome party in human history." Outside, the world was still in chaos, but in the command center, humanity's leaders were already planning, not for surrender, not for defeat, but for the moment when their ancient enemy would arrive and discover the terrible truth. The prey had become the predator, and the predator thought the whole thing was absolutely hilarious. The flagship was called the Eternal Verdict. It was a massive ship, 3 kilometers long, covered in weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations. For 6,000 years, it had traveled through the darkness of space, carrying the promise of conquest. Supreme Arbiter stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by. He was tall, even for a, with silver skin that shimmered in the artificial light. His black eyes held the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "How long until we reach the target system?" he asked. 28 days, Supreme Arbiter," his navigation officer replied. "The beacon has confirmed activation. The primitives have received our message." Nodded with satisfaction. This would be his greatest victory, the conquest of a new world, the addition of another slave species to the empire. His name would be remembered forever. "Have we received any response from the planet?" he asked. His communications officer hesitated. This was unusual. Officers never hesitated. "Yes, Supreme Arbiter, we have received many responses." "Show me." The main screen flickered to life. Expected to see terrified leaders begging for mercy. He expected surrender documents and desperate negotiations. What he saw instead made no sense at all. The screen showed an image. It was their declaration, their sacred announcement of conquest. But someone had drawn a crude hat on the projection of his ancestor's face. Below it were strange symbols that his translator struggled to process. "What does it say?" demanded. The translator worked for a moment. Then it displayed the message, "Nice hat, losers." Stared at the screen. He did not understand. More images appeared, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Each one took their sacred declaration and changed it in ridiculous ways. Some added funny faces. Some replaced words with nonsense. Some showed strange earth creatures making expressions of mockery. "What is the meaning of this?" His voice was cold with anger. His advisor stepped forward. He was older than, with scars from ancient battles covering his silver skin. "Perhaps it is a mistake, Supreme Arbiter. Perhaps their primitive technology corrupted our message." "No," the communications officer said quietly. "These responses are intentional. They are organized. Multiple sources from across the planet are sending them." A video began to play. It showed a human standing behind a wooden platform. Other humans sat in front of him, holding small devices that flashed with light. The human spoke in a calm voice that the translator converted to. "Today we received a message from space," the human said. "Apparently, some aliens visited us 6,000 years ago and decided to declare war. They have been flying here ever since. Their fleet should arrive in about a month." The humans in the audience laughed, actually laughed, at the declaration of their doom. The speaking human continued. "According to our scientists, these aliens assessed our threat level when we were still figuring out how to make bronze tools. They designed their invasion based on that information. They have been traveling at sublight speed, which means they probably don't know we invented cars, planes, nuclear power, or, space travel." More laughter from the audience. "So basically, they're bringing swords to fight people with laser cannons. On behalf of Earth, I would like to officially say, good luck with that." The video ended, stood in silence. His officers were afraid to speak. "They mock us," finally said. "They mock the Empire. This is unforgivable." His hands tightened into fists. "They do not understand. They cannot understand. When we arrive, we will teach them the price of disrespect." But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered a question he did not want to hear. What if they are not afraid because they have no reason to be afraid? He pushed the thought away. It was impossible. He had seen the records from 6,000 years ago. The humans were primitives. They lived in mud houses. They fire and feared the dark. They could not have changed that much. Could they? On Earth, Lieutenant Jin was having the time of his life. As the official media contact for the Defense Center, his job was usually boring. He gave statements about budget reports and training exercises. Nobody cared. Now the whole world was watching him. "Lieutenant Jin," a reporter shouted, "is Earth prepared for an alien invasion?" Jin smiled. He had practiced this answer with Admiral. "Let me put it this way. If you ordered a pizza 6,000 years ago, would you expect it to still be warm when it arrived? These aliens are bringing very old pizza. We have moved on to much better food." The reporters laughed. Jin continued. "The fleet is using technology that was advanced when humans lived in caves. Our defense systems are designed to protect against threats from civilizations far more advanced than them. With all respect to our visitors, We are not particularly worried." Another reporter raised her hand. "Are we going to attack them when they arrive?" "That decision is above my level," Jin admitted. "But personally, I hope not. It would feel wrong to destroy people who tried so hard to get here. It would be like punching a child who challenges you to a fight. Sure, you could do it, but why would you?" In her laboratory, Doctor was building a profile of the species. The more she learned, the more she understood the situation. They were conquerors. Their entire society was built around expansion and dominance. They traveled the galaxy, finding primitive species and adding them to their empire. In 6,000 years, they had never met a species that could fight back. This was not because they were incredibly powerful. It was because they were incredibly careful. They only attacked planets that were far behind them in technology. They never took risks. They never faced equals. "They are bullies," said to Admiral during their meeting. "They have been bullies for their entire history. They pick on the weak because they are afraid of the strong." Nodded thoughtfully. "And now they have accidentally picked on someone stronger." "Exactly, but here is the interesting part." Pulled up her research on the screen. "Their culture is based on honor and hierarchy. Surrender means death in their society. If they lose to us, they will be destroyed by their own people for the shame of defeat. So if we simply crush them, we kill them anyway." "Yes, but there is another option in their culture. A conquered species can sometimes be adopted by a greater power. If we accept them as subordinates instead of enemies, they can survive with their honor intact." Considered this. "You are saying we should offer them a way out that does not involve dying." "I am saying we should offer them a way out that lets everyone win. They get to live. We get to show the galaxy that humanity is not just powerful but wise." The Admiral smiled. "I like it. Prepare a detailed report. We will discuss it with the Council." Days passed. The fleet continued its journey toward Earth. Every day they received more messages from the humans, more jokes, more mockery, more evidence that the primitives were not afraid. On the flagship grew more and more disturbed. He had conquered 12 worlds in his career. Every single one had responded to his declaration with fear. Some had tried to fight. Some had tried to run. Some had simply surrendered immediately, but none of them had ever laughed. "Perhaps they are insane," suggested. "Perhaps their species has some form of mass mental illness." "Perhaps," agreed, but he did not believe it. He ordered his science team to scan the Earth system from their current position. The results took several days to arrive. When they did, felt his blood run cold. "This cannot be right," he whispered. The scans showed structures in orbit around Earth. Thousands of structures. Some were clearly ships, others were stations. Some were so large they could be seen from millions of kilometers away. The planet itself was surrounded by an artificial ring. Satellites, the science team explained, tens of thousands of them. And that was just Earth. The scans showed activity on the Moon, on the red planet called Mars, on the moons of the gas giant called Jupiter. "How is this possible?" demanded. 6,000 years ago they had not invented the wheel. His science officer shook his head. "I do not know, Supreme Arbiter, but these readings are accurate. The humans have colonized their entire system. Their technology level appears to be significantly higher than ours." The bridge went silent. "We should turn back," someone said quietly. No, his voice was firm. "We have come too far. We have declared our intentions. To retreat now would mean disgrace, death." "But if we attack them—" "We will not attack," made a decision in that moment, a decision that saved his life and the lives of his crew. "We will continue forward. We will meet them face to face, and we will see if the situation is truly as bad as it appears." He looked out at the stars, toward the distant point of light that was Earth's sun. "Perhaps," he said softly, "perhaps we can find another way." The day had finally come. After 6,000 years of travel, the Armada reached the edge of Earth's solar system. 300 warships emerged from the darkness, their engines burning bright against the black void. It was the largest invasion force they had ever assembled. Commander stood on the bridge of the Eternal Verdict, watching the sensor displays. His crew worked in nervous silence. Everyone had seen the distant scans. Everyone knew that something was very wrong with their invasion plan. Status report ordered. All ships have completed the final approach phase, his tactical officer replied. We are entering the human system now. Estimated arrival at the target planet, 16 hours. 16 hours. After 6,000 years of waiting, would see Earth with his own eyes in just 16 hours. He should have felt triumphant. Instead, he felt a growing sense of dread. Begin close-range scanning, he commanded. I want to know everything about this system. The results came in slowly. Each new piece of information made the situation worse. The human colonies on Mars were larger than any city. The moon was covered in domes and structures that glowed with artificial light. Massive stations orbited every planet. Ships moved between them like fish in an ocean, too many to count. And then there was Earth itself. Had studied the records from 6,000 years ago. He remembered the images of a primitive world, small villages, forests and oceans untouched by technology, a planet of hunters and farmers who feared the night. The planet he now saw was completely different. Cities covered the continents like glowing webs. An enormous ring circled the equator, a structure so large it was visible from space. Orbital stations floated above like metal clouds, and around everything, thousands of ships maintained careful formations. Count the vessels, ordered. His officer worked for a moment. Then he looked up with fear in his eyes. Supreme Arbiter, there are approximately 12,000 ships in defensive positions around Earth alone, many more throughout the system. Total count is still being calculated. 12,000 ships. They had brought 300. What about their technology level? Asked. Can you assess their weapons? Supreme Arbiter, I cannot accurately measure their capabilities. Their systems are too advanced for our sensors to fully analyze. But based on energy signatures alone, any one of their large vessels appears to be more powerful than our entire fleet combined. The bridge fell completely silent, felt the weight of 6,000 years pressing down on his shoulders. His ancestors had made a terrible mistake. They had looked at primitive humans and seen easy prey. They had not considered that humans might grow, that they might learn, that they might become something far beyond the imagination. We have been detected, the communications officer announced. A human vessel is approaching our position. On the main screen, a ship appeared. It was sleek and beautiful, shaped like a curved blade. It moved through space with a grace that ships could not match. As it approached, could see the name written on its side, Resolve. A transmission request appeared, took a deep breath and accepted it. The face that appeared on screen was young, human, male based on the records. He had dark hair and calm eyes that held no fear at all. He looked at like someone looking at an old photograph. Welcome to the Sol system, the human said. I am Captain Wu of the Earth flagship Resolve. We received your message 30 days ago. He paused and smiled slightly. Honestly, we forgot you were coming. It has been a long 6,000 years. Tried to maintain his dignity. I am Supreme Arbiter of the Empire. We have come too. Yes, we know why you came. Captain Wu waved his hand dismissively. You left a very dramatic message. Conquer us, enslave us, all that. Very impressive for the time, I am sure. You dare to interrupt me. I apologize. Please continue. You were about to threaten us with weapons designed to fight people who did not have electricity. Take your time. Felt his face grow hot with anger, but beneath the anger was something else. Something he had never felt before in his career as a conqueror. Embarrassment. Perhaps, said slowly, We should discuss this situation in person." Captain Wu raised an eyebrow. "Really? You want to talk?" "I want to understand. Clearly, much has changed since our ancestors visited your world. I would like to know how much." The human captain considered this. Then he nodded. "That is actually pretty reasonable. Give us a few hours to prepare. We will send you coordinates for a meeting location. Come with your flagship only. Leave the rest of your fleet where they are." "And if I refuse?" Wu shrugged. "Then nothing happens. We are not going to attack you. That would feel wrong, like stepping on ants." The transmission ended. Stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by officers who did not know what to say. "What do we do, Supreme Arbiter?" finally asked. Stared at the blue and green planet in the distance. The world his ancestors had dismissed as worthless. The world that had grown into something that dwarfed the Empire. "We go to the meeting," he said. "We listen, and we pray to every god we know that these humans are as kind as they are powerful." 8 hours later, the eternal verdict approached the meeting coordinates. It was a space station in high orbit above Earth, large enough to hold several ships inside. The station was shaped like a flower, with petals of metal and glass extending outward. Lights sparkled across its surface. "The humans are requesting we dock at Port 7, the navigation officer reported. "Proceed." The massive flagship, Pride of the Empire, moved carefully toward the tiny assigned port. As they approached, could see human ships passing by. They barely glanced at the pilots waved casually through their windows. One small vessel, some kind of cargo transport, actually cut in front of them like they were not even there. "They do not fear us at all," observed. "No," agreed, "they do not." The docking procedure was smooth. Ships were designed for combat, not elegance. They connected to the human station with clumsy metal clamps. The difference in technology was obvious even in this simple task. A human delegation was waiting when stepped through the airlock. They wore simple uniforms in dark blue. No weapons were visible. No armor. They stood relaxed and comfortable, like hosts welcoming guests to a party. Captain Wu stood at the front. Beside him was a woman with silver hair and confident eyes. Recognized authority when he saw it. This was someone important. "Supreme Arbiter," the woman said. "I am Admiral, Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces. Welcome to Station Harmony." Performed the traditional greeting, a complex gesture of respect between equals. Watched with interest but did not try to copy it. Admiral replied, "I must admit, this is not what I expected when we began our journey." "No, I imagine not," smiled warmly. "Would you like a tour? I think it might help you understand the current situation." The tour lasted 3 hours. Walked through the station in a state of constant shock. Every room revealed new wonders. Every window showed new impossibilities. He saw holographic displays that made technology look like cave paintings. He saw medical facilities that could heal injuries doctors would consider fatal. He saw children playing in zero-gravity parks, laughing as they floated through the air. "How?" he finally asked. "How did you advance so quickly? Your species was nothing when we first visited, less than nothing." Admiral considered the question. "We had a few advantages. First, we are intensely curious. We cannot stop ourselves from asking questions and seeking answers. Second, we are extremely competitive. When one human learns something, every other human wants to learn it too. And third—" She paused, looking out at the earth below. "We are absolutely terrible at giving up. Other species might have accepted their place in the universe. We refused. Every time the universe told us no, we asked why. And then we found a way to turn that no into a yes." Shook his head slowly. "In 6,000 years we have conquered 100 worlds. In the same time you have done this. Perhaps we were the primitives all along." Placed a gentle hand on his arm. "You are not primitive, Supreme Arbiter. You are just slow. There is no shame in that. Different species develop at different rates." But our mission, our declaration. Forget your declaration. His voice was kind but firm. That was 6,000 years ago. Everything has changed. Your empire declared war on people who no longer exist. The humans you threatened are gone. We are something new. She led him to a viewing room. One entire wall was transparent, showing the full glory of Earth's orbital infrastructure. Ships moved like fireflies. Stations glittered like jewels. The planet itself pulsed with light. "Here is my offer," said. "Forget the war. It cannot happen. You know this, we know this. Your weapons could not scratch our smallest defense satellite, but we do not want to destroy you. We do not want to humiliate you. We want to welcome you." Looked at her with surprise. "Welcome us. Your people traveled for 6,000 years to get here. That takes dedication, courage. Those are qualities we respect. Join us. Let us teach you. In a few centuries, you might catch up to where we are now." "And if we refuse?" Admiral shrugged with the same casual gesture Captain Wu had used. "Then you go home. We will not stop you, but I think you will find it hard to return to your empire and explain what happened here. Your leaders might not be as understanding as we are." Thought about this. Was right. If he returned to the empire with news of failure, he would be executed for shame. If he returned with news that he had joined a greater power, he might survive. His people might survive. "I will need to speak with my officers," he said finally. "Take all the time you need," smiled. "We have waited 6,000 years. We can wait a few more days." Returned to the eternal verdict with a heavy heart. His officers gathered in the war room, waiting for orders. Their faces were confused and frightened. They had trained their entire lives for conquest. They had never been taught what to do when conquest was impossible. "Supreme Arbiter," said carefully, "what are your orders?" Sat in his command chair and stared at the tactical display. It showed the human fleet surrounding them, 12,000 ships against 300. It was not a battle, it was a joke. "The humans have offered us a choice," explained. "We can join them as subordinates, learn from them, become part of their civilization, or we can leave and return home." "Return home," another officer spoke up. "If we return with nothing, the High Council will execute us all." "I know. Then what choice do we have?" Stood and walked to the window. Earth hung in the darkness, beautiful and terrifying. His ancestors had looked at that planet and seen prey. They had been fools. "There is a third option," said quietly. "We could fight." The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. It meant death, quick, certain death. But for some, death in battle was preferable to the shame of surrender. "I have considered that option," admitted. "But before we make any decision, I want to know exactly what we would be fighting against. I want to see their weapons, their capabilities. I want to understand what we face." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact the human flagship. Tell them we request a demonstration of their military strength. Tell them we need to see what we are dealing with before we can make our choice." The message was sent. The response came within minutes. "The humans agree to your request," the communications officer reported. "They say they have something called a welcome package. It is designed for exactly this situation." A welcome package. That is what they called it, Supreme Arbiter. Did not know whether to laugh or cry. The humans had prepared for this. They had known, even before they arrived, that there would need to be a demonstration. They had created a special presentation just for confused invaders. "Tell them we accept," said. "Let us see what they have." The demonstration began an hour later. The human fleet pulled back, creating a clear zone of space between them and the Armada. A single human vessel remained in the middle of the zone. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle. "That is their demonstration ship," sounded confused. "It is tiny." Patience said, "Let us see what they do." The small ship projected a hologram into space. It was massive, visible from every ship in both fleets. The image showed Earth as it had been 6,000 years ago. Green forests, blue oceans, small settlements of primitive humans. "This is your world as we remember it," a voice narrated. It was female, calm, and professional. "This is the world our ancestors visited. This is why we came." The image changed. It showed the passage of time, speeding through history at incredible speed. Watched as human civilization grew. Small villages became cities. Cities became nations. Horses were replaced by machines. Fire was replaced by electricity. "The Industrial Revolution," the voice continued. "Humans discovered how to use machines to multiply their strength. In just 200 years, they transformed their entire planet." The images kept coming. Flying machines, weapons that could level cities, towers of glass and steel reaching toward the sky. The nuclear age. Humans learned to split atoms. They created energy sources powerful enough to destroy themselves. Instead, they chose to use that power to build. Then came the stars, rockets rising from Earth, humans walking on their moon, machines exploring distant planets. The space age. Humans left their world. They reached for the stars. They refused to accept the limits of their birth. Watched in silence as the timeline continued. Colonies on Mars, stations around Jupiter, massive ships that could travel faster than light, each achievement more impressive than the last. "The current date," the voice said. "Human population, 28 billion across 12 worlds. Technological classification, Type 2 civilization. Military capabilities, beyond measurement." The hologram disappeared. The small human ship remained floating alone in the void. "That is the history lesson," a new voice said. It was Captain Wu. "Now let us show you what we can do." The tactical officer suddenly shouted in alarm. "Supreme Arbiter, one of our ships is charging weapons." Spun around. Who gave that order?" On the tactical display he could see it. The Crimson Blade, one of the smaller warships in his fleet, its plasma cannons were powering up. The captain of that ship, a young fool named, was known for his hot temper. "Stand down," commanded through the communication system. "That is a direct order." "Forgive me, Supreme Arbiter." His voice was wild with pride and anger. "But I will not bow to these creatures. I will show them that are warriors." The Crimson Blade fired. A plasma lance shot across space toward Earth's defense grid. It was a powerful weapon by standards. It had destroyed enemy ships in previous conquests. It burned through the void like a spear of blue fire. It stopped. 10,000 kilometers from Earth, the plasma lance simply stopped moving. It hung in space, frozen, trapped in a shimmering web of energy that appeared from nowhere. "What happened?" whispered. On the human side, there was no alarm, no panic, just a calm voice from a young woman on one of the defense stations. "Defense grid activated, threat neutralized." Lieutenant had been monitoring her console with half-closed eyes when the alien ship fired. She had not even bothered to sit up straight. The defense grid had stopped the plasma lance automatically. It was designed to stop much worse things than that. "Cute," she muttered, already returning to her screen. Captain Wu watched the frozen plasma lance with amusement. "Did you just try to attack us?" Felt his face burn with shame. "I apologize, that was not authorized. The captain of that ship acted without orders." "No need to apologize. It was actually helpful. Now we can show you something useful." The small human demonstration ship moved toward the frozen plasma lance. It released a pulse of energy, and the plasma dissolved harmlessly into space. "That was your best weapon," Wu continued. "Our basic defense grid stopped it without any human involvement. A computer program decided it was not worth waking anyone up for." He paused to let that sink in. "Now let me show you what our weapons can do. Do not worry, we will aim at empty space." Engineer powered up the demonstration sequence from his station on the Resolve. This was his specialty. He had designed the welcome package after years of studying how first contact might go wrong. His job was to show aliens exactly what they faced without actually hurting anyone. "Target locked," he reported. "Firing demonstration weapon in 3, 2, 1. A beam of light shot from the Resolve. It crossed the void in an instant and struck a small asteroid that had been pushed into position for exactly this purpose. The asteroid was 500 meters wide. It evaporated, not exploded, evaporated. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone, converted into a cloud of glowing gas that spread across space like a gentle wave. That was our standard ship cannon," Wu said. "Every vessel in our fleet carries several. The Resolve alone has 48. Felt his legs grow weak. Their plasma lance, their greatest weapon, had been stopped by a computer program. The human response had destroyed an asteroid like it was nothing. "Do you need to see more?" Wu asked. His voice was not cruel, it was almost kind. "We have many other things we could demonstrate: defensive shields, faster-than-light travel, weapons that make this one look like a toy. But I think you understand the situation now." "I understand," said quietly. "Good, then let us stop playing games and talk like adults." The demonstration ended. The human fleet returned to its previous positions. Everything looked exactly as it had before, except that the small asteroid was now a fatting cloud of particles. On the Crimson Blade, Captain sat in his command chair with tears running down his silver face. He had wanted to prove strength. Instead, he had proven weakness. His plasma lance, the weapon he had been so proud of, had been swatted away like an insect. "I have killed us all," he whispered. "My pride has doomed us." His officers did not respond. They were too busy staring at their screens, watching the recordings of the human weapon destroying the asteroid. They played it over and over, trying to understand what they had seen. On the eternal verdict, called an emergency meeting of all ship captains. Their faces appeared on screen, each one showing different stages of shock and fear. "You have all seen the demonstration," said. "You understand what we face. The humans could destroy us at any moment. They choose not to. They offer us a chance to survive." "What chance?" someone asked. "They want us to join them, to become part of their civilization, to learn from them and grow." "That is surrender," said bitterly. "That is death." "No," shook his head. "That is survival. The old ways tell us that surrender is shameful, but the old ways did not prepare us for this. The old ways did not expect us to meet a species that grew from nothing to everything in 6,000 years." He looked at each captain in turn. "I will not order any of you to follow me. This must be a choice. But I am going to accept the human offer. I am going to learn what they have to teach. And if that means I am weak, then I am weak. I would rather be weak and alive than strong and dead." One by one, the captains made their decisions. Most chose to follow. A few chose to leave, to try to make it back to the Empire and face whatever judgment awaited them. Was among those who chose to go. "I hope you find peace," told him. "And I hope you find your pride," replied. The small group of ships broke away from the fleet and began their long journey home. Watched them go with sadness. They would probably not survive the trip. Even if they did, they would face execution for failure. "You made the right choice," Admiral's voice came through the communication system. "Welcome to humanity." Looked at Earth, at the impossible civilization that had grown from primitive beginnings. For the first time in his life, he did not know what the future held. For the first time in his life, he was not in control. It was terrifying. It was also exciting. "Thank you, Admiral," he said. "I hope we do not disappoint you." "You will not," replied. "You traveled 6,000 years to find us. That kind of determination is rare. We will find a use for it." The fleet moved closer to Earth, not as conquerors but as students. The greatest invasion in their history had ended without a single casualty, and somehow That felt like victory. Admiral decided to board the flagship personally. Her officers thought she was crazy. Captain Wu insisted on sending a full security team with her. She refused everything. "I will go alone," she said firmly. "Unarmed. If we want them to trust us, we have to show them trust first." "Admiral, with respect, that is a terrible idea," Wu argued. "They came here to conquer us. They attacked us less than an hour ago. You cannot just walk onto their ship like you are visiting a friend." Smiled, "Watch me." She took a small shuttle across the void between ships. The eternal verdict loomed ahead of her, massive and dark. Its weapons were pointed in every direction, ready to fire at threats that could never come. It was like looking at a dinosaur that did not know it was already extinct. They met her at the airlock. Dozens of silver-skinned aliens in military uniforms, standing at attention like soldiers greeting a general, stood at the front, his face a mixture of confusion and respect. "Admiral," he said, "you came alone, without weapons, without guards." "Yes." "Why?" Looked around at the warriors. They held energy rifles that would have been impressive 6,000 years ago. They wore armor that their ancestors had designed to stop bronze swords. They were doing their best to look dangerous, but she could see the fear in their eyes. "Because I do not need weapons or guards," she said simply. "And neither do you. We are not enemies. We never were. Your ancestors made a mistake, and now your generation has to deal with the consequences. That does not make you bad people. It makes you unlucky." She walked past the guards without hesitation. They moved aside automatically, too surprised to stop her, hurried to catch up. "Admiral, this is highly irregular. Our protocols." "Forget your protocols." Kept walking. "Show me to your war room. We have important things to discuss." The war room of the Eternal Verdict was designed to intimidate. Holographic displays showed star maps and battle plans. Weapons lined the walls. The great victories of the Empire were carved into the metal surfaces, celebrating thousands of years of conquest. Barely glanced at any of it. She found the most comfortable-looking chair and sat down like she owned the place. "Please sit," she said too. "We have much to talk about." Sat across from her. His advisors gathered around, watching the human with suspicious eyes. Stood closest to his commander, one hand resting on his weapon. "Let me explain something," began. 6,000 years ago, your ancestors visited Earth. They saw primitive humans and decided we were not a threat. They left a beacon promising future conquest and flew away. That was not evil. It was practical. Your people have conquered many worlds using that strategy." She leaned forward. "But something happened that your ancestors did not expect. Humans changed. We grew. We learned. In 6,000 years, we went from mud huts to starships, from stone tools to weapons that can destroy planets. We did not do this because we knew you were coming. We did it because that is who we are. We cannot stop ourselves from growing." Nodded slowly. "I have seen your history. I understand how much you have changed." "Good. Then you understand why this invasion can never succeed. Your fleet could attack us right now, all 300 ships at once, and we would not even consider it a serious threat. Our automated defenses would stop you without waking a single human from sleep. You have made this very clear. But here is what I want you to understand." His voice softened. "We do not want to destroy you. We do not want to humiliate you. We find no joy in your failure. The universe is large and empty. We have been alone for a very long time. When your beacon activated, when we learned that other intelligent life existed, do you know what we felt?" Fear, guessed. Excitement, smiled. "We were excited. Finally someone to talk to, someone to share ideas with, someone to prove that we are not alone in the cosmos. And then we realized you were coming to conquer us with weapons from the Bronze Age, and we thought, well, we thought it was funny, but we also thought it was sad because we wanted partners and instead we got children." Stepped forward. "We are not children. The Empire has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. And in that time, what have you accomplished? Asked gently. You have conquered primitive species. You have built weapons that were impressive long ago. You have maintained an empire based on fear and dominance. But have you grown? Have you learned? Have you challenged yourselves to become something greater? Had no answer. Humans are different, continued. We are never satisfied. We always want more knowledge, more power, more understanding. We compete with each other constantly, pushing ourselves to be better. When one human builds something impressive, 1,000 others try to build something more impressive. That is why we grow so fast. That is why we became what we are. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Earth hanging in the darkness, her home, the world that had given birth to the most dangerous species in the galaxy. I am offering you a chance to become part of that growth, she said. Join us. Learn from us. In a few centuries, your people could be as advanced as we are now. In 1,000 years, we could explore the galaxy together. We could be partners instead of enemies. Was quiet for a long moment. His advisors whispered among themselves. The offer was generous, almost impossibly generous. But accepting it meant admitting defeat. It meant telling the people that their great invasion had failed before it began. If we join you, he said finally, what happens to our empire? What happens to the worlds we have already conquered? That is your problem to solve, not ours. Turn back to face him. We will teach you. We will protect you while you learn, but we will not manage your affairs for you. If you want to keep your empire, find a way to keep it. If you want to change your relationship with your conquered worlds, that is your choice. We only care about what you do going forward, not what you have done in the past. And the worlds you have not conquered, the other species in the galaxy. We are working on that, smiled mysteriously. You are not the first confused invaders we have welcomed. You will not be the last. Humanity has a plan, a very long-term plan, but I am not going to share all of it today. Stood and walked to stand beside her at the window. For a moment, they both looked at Earth in silence. My ancestors were fools, he said quietly. Your ancestors were normal, replied. They made a reasonable decision based on the information they had. How could they know that humans were special? How could anyone know? Are you special, I mean? Considered the question. I do not know if special is the right word. We are different. We grow in ways that other species do not seem to grow. We change in ways that frighten us sometimes. But special implies that we are better than others. I do not believe that. I believe we are just one species among many, trying to find our place in the universe. She looked at with genuine warmth. Your people traveled for 6,000 years to reach us. That takes incredible determination. That takes faith in your mission. Humans respect those qualities. We may have laughed at your weapons, but we never laughed at your spirit. Felt something shift inside him. For his entire life, he had been taught that other species were inferior. That were the masters of the galaxy. That conquest was the natural order of things. Now he stood beside a woman who could have destroyed him with a word, and she was treating him like an equal. Not because he had earned it, not because he had proven himself in battle, simply because she chose to. I accept your offer, he said. On behalf of my fleet, on behalf of my people, I accept. Extended her hand. It was a human gesture of agreement, and had learned about it from the cultural database during the long journey. He took her hand and shook it gently. Welcome to the family, said. Now let us begin your education. Doctor was waiting when they returned to Station Harmony. She had prepared materials, presentations, a complete curriculum designed to introduce to human culture and technology. She had expected the process to take months. It took years. They were not stupid. They learned quickly once they understood what they were learning, but there was so much to learn. Human history alone took 6 months to cover properly. Human science took longer. Human art and culture and philosophy took longest of all. threw himself into his studies with the same determination he had once applied to conquest. He learned human languages. He studied human mathematics. He watched human films and read human books and listened to human music. Some of it confused him. Humans seemed to enjoy being sad sometimes. They told stories about terrible things that made them cry, and then they said they enjoyed the experience. They competed over games that had no real meaning, pouring incredible energy into activities that produced nothing useful. But the more he learned, the more he understood. Humans did not just survive. They lived. They filled their short lives with experiences and emotions and connections. They loved deeply and lost painfully and kept going despite everything. It was beautiful in a strange way. "You are doing well," Admiral told him during one of their regular meetings. "Your people are adapting faster than we expected." "We are motivated," replied. "Nothing teaches faster than the fear of looking foolish." Laughed. It was a sound had learned to appreciate. Humans laughed at everything, including themselves, especially themselves. It was one of their most confusing traits and one of their most charming. "Have you sent word back to your empire?" she asked. "Not yet. I do not know what to say. How do you explain to your people that their greatest warriors have become students? How do you tell them that their ancient enemies are now their teachers?" "You tell them the truth," shrugged. "Your people are not fools. They will understand that survival sometimes requires change, and if some of them refuse to understand, well, that is their problem, not yours." Nodded. He had been thinking about this for months. He had a message prepared. He was just afraid to send it. "Do it now," encouraged. "Waiting will only make it harder." That night recorded his message to the Empire. He told them everything: the human civilization, the demonstration, the offer of partnership. He told them that the great invasion had ended before it began and that he had chosen to accept defeat. But he also told them something else. "I have seen things you cannot imagine," he said. "I have learned things that change everything we thought we knew. The humans are not our enemies, they are our future. Come to them. Learn from them. Become something greater than we ever thought possible. This is not surrender. This is evolution. And evolution, as the humans have taught me, is always victory." He sent the message into the void and waited for the universe to respond.